Today is Saturday, September 20th, 2008, and I'm here in Elizabethtown, New York at the Field, Forest, and Stream event sponsored by the Arts Council for the Northern Adirondacks. And I'm speaking to Bernard Duso in the Sugar Shack right here on the grounds because Bernard is the one who tends the Sugar Shack. So you're usually the one who watches the fire here and takes care of the Sugar Shack when they have events, right?
When we have the sugar festival in the spring, I do get the sugar house going, make the syrup, and we just have a good festivities on that day if the weather cooperates, and usually it has for the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's great. Now, how did you get picked and how did you volunteer to be the one who runs the Sugar Shack?
Well, I was the only one that made syrup back when this started, you know what I mean, and they asked me if I'd do it, and I've been doing it since.
And how long has that been?
The last 20 years or however long it's been going.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
yeah.
Well, Bernard, I'm really interested in talking to you a little bit first about just your own family history in the area.
Right.
I know you're a real Adirondacker,
Yeah,
so if you
yeah.
could tell me a little bit about your family.
Yeah,
here.
I was born in Saranac Lake. My wife was born in Westport. We've lived here all of our lives. I moved here at 52. I was 4 years old, and she's lived in Westport all of her life. And we have 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. And the boy has a wife and 3 children, so we're not a big family, but we have a lot of fun. We got one granddaughter that's handicapped, but she gets along fine. We get along good with her. Everything is working good. So.
Yeah.
But-
So you said you moved to Elizabethtown when you were 4 years old?
Yep, I was born in Saranac Lake,
Uh-huh.
so I was still in the North Country.
That's right.
Yep.
And had your people been in this area for a while? Did your parents grow up here?
No, they grew up my mom grew up in Saranac Lake, and my dad grew up in Jericho, New York, which is up near Altona, in Clinton County.
Yeah, still the North Country.
North
Yeah,
Country.
just not the Adirondacks.
Yes.
Yeah. And is there a tradition of sugaring in your family? Is that something your people have done over the
My
years?
great-grandfather used to do it, you know what I mean, and we used to help him, you know what I mean, in the sugar house when we were small, like our grandchildren are now. And
Uh-huh.
I just...
It was your great-grandfather that you
Yep,
were helping?
Yep.
And where was his sugar bush?
His sugar bush was up in Bloomingdale, New York.
Uh-huh.
And it was just small, you know, it was nothing big, but we used to go up there on weekends and spend the weekend with my grandmother and grandfather, and they were right next door to my great-grandfather and grandmother, so we'd go
Wow.
down there and make syrup.
Were they farming people?
Yes.
So
So back then, they were all small farms, you know, they each had 10, 12 cows, and milk was put in the milk can, picked up every day and taken to the creamery, and then milk cans were washed and brought back and to be used the next day, and they all had milk coolers, you know what I mean, they used to put their milk in, and so it was back in the days when it was all horses, and well, maybe once in a while they had a tractor, you know what I mean.
Uh-huh. Did you enjoy going off to work in the sugar bush?
Yes, it was a lot of fun, you know what I mean. That's why I wanted to do it when I started, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then my kids did it with us. They'd help gather the sap, you know what I mean. And then last spring, my grandson, he wanted to do some, so we didn't have enough time to set the sugar house up, so we just made some in the garage.
Uh-huh.
On the gas burner, you know what I mean. He just wanted to do a little bit. And when I thoroughly retire in the next couple of years, then I'm going to start my sugar house back up. We'll have it going here in town during the season.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So that's kind of your scheme for when. What is your full-time job now?
Well, I am semi-retired. I worked for the highway department for 37 years and retired from there. And then a friend of ours has got an oil company in Westport, and I went to work for her in 2002. I've been there ever since, but I have a couple more years, and then with her, and I'll retire as soon as my wife retires from Overtowns.
Uh-huh.
Then we'll enjoy ourselves.
And part of that plan is you're going to run the sugar shack.
In the spring of the year.
Uh-huh. Well, let's go back for a minute to your grandparents and great-grandparents. Was this part of their income during the year, or was it mostly for their own
Mostly
use?
just for their own use and families and friends, you know what I mean? And my great-grandfather, he was in the summertime, he was a caretaker at some of the big camps over around Saranac Lake, Saranac Inn in that area. And he'd give them syrup, you know what I mean? Well, I probably didn't give it to them, he probably sold it to them, you know what I mean? But they enjoyed it, you know what I mean? But they were big camps on the lakes, and he'd go over there in the wintertime, and he'd drive his horses from Bloomingdale over there, and then keep them over there, and they'd cut ice and put it in the ice house in the wintertime, and then springtime he'd do his sugaring and then get his fields planted he had to do, and then he'd caretake in the meantime, raking and stuff like that.
A true Adirondack man, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are some of the things that you enjoyed when you were growing up and helping with the sugar? What were some of the jobs that you got as a kid?
Well, gathering the sap, naturally, and we'd help boil it, and bring the wood into the sugar house, where it was, the syrup was being made, and just things like that, and we'd help them package it,
Yeah.
Back then it was all put in glass jars, and they'd use the jars over and over every year, just a mason jar, with a cover on it. And they do pints and quarts. But
Yeah, so it was easy for household
Yeah.
use. Were they kind of like canning jars?
yeah, same difference right
Oh
there.
yeah, I'm looking at a canning jar
Yeah,
right now. Same
difference.
thing.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
did he scare you
Okay.
to death?
Yeah, that means the event is officially underway, right?
Yeah, that's a practice run.
Okay. Well, people listening to this in the library
Yeah.
later are going to wonder what happened.
Oh, evaporator just blew up.
Yeah, right. That gave me a start.
Yeah.
So I completely lost my train of thought. Now, was the sugar bush? How big was it? How big was the sugar?
They had, maybe 100 trees, and say probably 200 to 250 taps. Just a small,
Uh-huh.
family run unit, just like I've got, and it's nothing big where it takes, all your time, But, we started ours out as just a family oriented thing, and then we started selling a little bit. And then I worked for the town and I didn't have time. And we just made enough for our own use. But like I say, in a couple of years I'll get started my sugar house up again and
Yeah.
get it all tried together.
Now, did your family's sugar shack look like the one we're in?
Same thing.
Same exact looking
Exact
kind of
thing,
building.
not quite as big,
Uh-huh.
Evaporator, the pan was smaller and stuff. Oh, I think mine is 3 by 8, and this one here is 5 by 16.
The evaporator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all together.
Uh-huh.
So,
Great. Okay. Now, your own sugar bush is where?
well, I got just trees that I got friends. I just tap their trees. I don't have my own sugar.
So you have
bush.
agreement.
It's just an agreement, and they
Uh-huh.
get some of the goods. And they let me tap their trees. And
And where is your sugar shack?
my sugar house is on Water Street, right here in E-Town. That's the house where we live. It's in the backyard.
You know what? I walked past a house when I took the footbridge yesterday. I walked past a house that had a sugar shack in the backyard.
Yep.
Is that yours?
No, that is mine's right across the river.
Oh, okay.
That was Claude Turner.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you guys do that together? Do you sugar together?
No, he's on one side of the river and I'm on the other.
Uh-huh.
He makes it. He hasn't done it in the last couple of years. But with the snow we had last year, he couldn't.
Because the snow was too deep to get out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, are you using tubing now?
We're using mostly tubing and some buckets, but mostly tubings, and we'll run it into a 55-gallon barrel. And pump it out of the barrel into the gathering tank and then bring it to the sugar house.
Uh-huh. And, I was talking about this with Ron Jackson yesterday and realizing that, when you had sap buckets, having a steep piece of property was more of a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you'd use the tubing, that's actually an
Yeah,
advantage.
better. Yeah, it's a real advantage because it'll form its own vacuum with that naturally working down the side hill. As your sap starts to run, it'll form its own vacuum to help it get down the end where your gathering tank is.
Uh-huh. Now, did your family make much sugar or cream or anything?
Just for their own use.
Yeah.
They didn't sell none of that. They would just make some for their own use, you know what I mean?
And they weren't doing the molded candies?
No, they just put it in they'd make them in like a cupcake tin, you know what I mean? And just put a thin layer so they'd be half inch thick, you know what I mean? And they'd be round, but they weren't using no molds or nothing.
Well, that's interesting. They'd use a cupcake tin. Yeah, that makes sense. You'd get like a little
You
cake.
give it a round cake. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. So when you decided to start doing it yourself, you worked out an agreement to use some trees, and again, you were mostly doing it for your own purposes.
Yep. And us and people that had the trees, I'd give them some of the product, you know what I mean? And then on, we'd sell a little bit, you know what I mean? And give it away.
Uh-huh.
It's just a family thing, and the kids had friends, and they'd come over and help us, and they'd give it to their friends, you know what I mean? it was just spring of the year. That's the thing to do. You know what I mean? And that's the only thing you can do.
Did you do other things in the spring, like, I don't know, collect cowslips or go bullhead fishing?
Oh yeah,
or...
we fish in the spring. We fish bullhead, trout, and we hunt in the fall. I hunt. And I've been to Newfoundland, Canada. I've killed a couple of moose up there.
Wow. That must be exciting.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Till you shoot one, then that's when the fun is all over with, and that's when the work starts.
Yeah. That must be a big job, cleaning out a...
Yeah. Well, carrying it out too, because they carry it out in quarters, you know what I mean? But it's a lot of fun. Worthwhile doing.
So when you retire and you start doing this more actively, what are your plans? Are you planning on having a business?
No. Just doing the same thing we have then, you know, sell a little bit, supply our friends, and because we got, like I say, we've been up to Newfoundland, Canada, moose hunting and stuff, and when we go up there, we take 5-6 gallons up there because we got friends up there, you know what I mean, and they don't have it up there, so we trade maple syrup for lobster.
Ooh.
And codfish and all different kinds of fish that they have. So then,
I like that. I like the idea of that barter.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what we do, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Now, do you have opinions about the difference between Adirondack maple syrup and Vermont maple syrup?
Not really. I don't think it's all got to be made to the same specifications. It takes the same amount of saps, takes the same amount of wood or fuel oil to boil it, you know what I mean? And when you reverse osmosis, to me it's the same, you know what I mean? And, Quebec's the same way as far as I'm concerned. I've tasted syrup from all over, and maple syrup.
Now, I've heard that locals tend to prefer the darker stuff as opposed to the real light stuff that the tourists like. What's your opinion on that?
To me, I'd rather have the darker stuff. It's got more flavor, maple flavor. Your first run is nice and, light and clear and stuff, but it's sweeter, but it just doesn't have the maple flavor to it, I don't think. Or that's my opinion, you know what I mean? But everybody has their own opinion.
So do you eat a lot of syrup in your family?
Yeah.
Pancakes?
Pancakes, ice cream. My wife makes maple cheesecake.
Ooh.
And a lot of other different things we use it for.
Johnny cake or beans?
Yep, we bake beans naturally, put it on ham,
Uh-huh.
and we bake it. Yep.
Nice.
Yes.
Now, as the price of syrup has gone up, some people have started to see that more as a luxury item instead of an everyday item. Now, of course, if you make it yourself,
right,
that's not an issue.
No,
But do you know whether that has affected people who do have a business?
I really don't think so. I mean, it's gone up in price, but if they want the flavor and the taste, they're gonna buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, they might not buy as much, but at least they're gonna buy some. You know what I mean? Where they used to buy maybe a gallon. This year, if it's the price of it, they only buy a half gallon. But they're still gonna buy it.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that your kids' friends used to come over and sugar with you. Was it kind of a social event?
Oh yeah.
So it was a way to get together with the neighbors?
Get together. You'd cook hot dogs out in the sugar house, or not in the sugar house, but over the fireplace outside the sugar house. We'd have hot dogs, and you'd make baked beans and stuff, and it was always something going on. Because when I was growing up on Water Street itself, there was like 110 kids on Water Street, which is about a mile long.
Oh my gosh, really? Big farm families?
No, just families, you know what I mean? And we'd get together and play. We had our own baseball field, and just get together. That's what it was. It was just family and friends, and you'd all get together on that street. And,
Wow, that's changed quite a bit.
Yes, it has. Yep.
Did you guys do wax on snow?
Oh yeah, sugar on snow we did. Yep. And you got to eat that naturally with dill pickle.
Oh, is that right? To counteract the sweetness?
Counteract the sweetness, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we used to, once in a while, we'd boil an egg in the syrup, you know what I mean? And it gives you a sweet boiled egg. They're about once a year they're fine, but other than that, they're too sweet for me.
So the egg absorbs a lot of the sugar.
Yeah. And then my wife uses it for baking some of her pumpkin breads and zucchini breads and stuff like that. They'll put syrup in it, and, for flavor and sweetness. But
Did you ever have any folklore in your own family about the signs, like when you knew the season was going to start or when you knew the season was going to end, by birds or flowers or?
I didn't really. I used to wait till, everybody used to, well, the guy across the river, he had to tap his tree to get the first run, you know what I mean? And then sometimes he'd wait 2 or 3 weeks before he'd get another one. And I always waited till I figured the weather was fine, and I'd tap my trees and get started. And, yep.
So you just looked at the temperature?
Just watch the temperature, long-range temperature, you know what I mean? Farmer's Almanac was that used to give you a pretty good idea how to plan on it.
Yeah. So you found the Farmer's Almanac a good resource?
Yep, yep.
Now, let me just direct our attention towards the evaporator for a minute.
Yes.
So it's steamy in here.
Yes.
And what's going on? Why don't you describe what's happening here?
Well, if we were making syrup, we'd have our sap come in on the back side of the evaporator, and it would go through the fingers on the evaporator. And as you work through each one of those fingers, then there's a tube on each side of your sugar pan where it comes from the evaporator. Then it starts in there, and there's troughs on the sugaring pan, and it'll work its way down through each trough. And as it gets heavier towards the syrup, it will all push to one side, and that's where you draw it off when there's a gauge on the other side of the thermometer. And when it says 7 degrees above the boiling point of water, which is 219, you open the little valve and start drawing it off. And as long as that gauge will hold right there at 219, you just keep drawing it off. And when it starts to drop, you shut it off. Then you got to wait for the process to go over again.
And how is it that, why does it all kind of, as it gets heavier, go down to one
Well,
side? Is this slightly slanted?
I meant to say lighter, because the water is heavier and it pushes it.
Oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah.
I see,
So
because
it
it's
pushes
feeding
it.
in.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's coming in
gotcha.
there, going down through each one, and when it gets over on that side.
Now, this is a very traditional wood-fired evaporator.
Yep.
And nowadays, a lot of people are using oil or
Oil. Yes.
propane,
Propane.
something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, of course, cutting firewood would have been a big part of the whole job,
Yeah.
too.
Yep, I used to take, and the bigger producers, by the time they hired somebody to cut wood, you process it and everything, and I would say it's just as cheap to burn the oil, even today's prices, as it is to cut the wood.
Because there's so much labor involved
So
in
much
getting,
labor. You got, if you cut wood, you got to have your tractors and stuff, and the price of gas is so high. You know what I mean? It's where fuel oil, it'll deliver it. You know what I mean? And it's right there.
Yeah.
And with fuel oil, you can turn a switch, and your blower or your burner will come on, and you're boiling within 5 minutes. And when your sap is all gone, you shut your boiler, you shut it down, and it'll cool off in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And with wood, you gotta get your fire down. Make sure you keep enough sap to cool your evaporator down, so you don't burn your pans and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So it's a lot of work to it.
Yeah, it is very labor intensive.
Yeah.
Now, I'm interested in the fact that even when you don't have time to do a full-blown sugaring season, you at least made some in the garage with your grandkids.
Yeah.
So it's just something that your family does.
Oh yeah, we do it every year. Like I say, we can't do it out there. We'll make enough in the garage to keep us through the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made I think it was 6-7 gallons in the garage.
Uh-huh.
And we use a gas burner, made in a big kettle like that. And you just boil it till it becomes syrup.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But I noticed this year the sap was awful sweet, and it didn't take long for it to become syrup.
And why do you think that was?
I don't know whether it was the snow or what it was, but it was just a phenomenal year for being sweet, and everybody is sweet that I talked to.
And is that considered a desirable thing?
Oh yeah, because you don't have to boil it as much to get your product.
Uh-huh. The seasons do fluctuate a lot, don't they?
Yes. Sometimes it'll start in February and go right straight into April, and sometimes you have 2 or 3 weeks and that's it. You know what I mean? So you got to be prepared and ready when the sap is there. You got to make it. When it isn't, you don't.
Yeah. Can you remember any years in particular that were either really awful or really amazing?
Well, like I say, last year was an amazing year for being sweetness, you know what I mean? And then other years we've had where you make very little because you don't get the weather and it doesn't freeze, and then when it does, it'll warm up too quick in the spring of the year, and then your sap season's over with because it's too warm and your sap gets buddy, here cloudy, and that's not any good for anything. So
Yeah.
But usually, normally it'll run for 6 to 8 weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got the same unpredictability that all farming
yeah.
efforts do.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you can plant a crop and have it
Yeah.
ruined by weather.
Yeah, and have it ruined by weather, frost or rain or sleet, or not sleet, but hail, you know what I mean, in the summer, and then in the fall, it's wind could blow it, you know, and knock it all your apples off the trees. It's the same thing. You just go by luck.
Yeah. Do you do other things like have a big garden?
No, I don't. We used to have a garden, but we don't anymore. We just raise a few vegetables for ourselves. Yep.
So the hunting and the sugaring are the two main things
Yeah.
you're still doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next year, I'm going to plan on going to Newfoundland again in the spring, and we're going to go up there and catch some lobsters and try to can it. You know, process it like you do vegetables and stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Bring it back.
Uh-huh.
They've done it up there, and we've had some, and it's not as good as fresh, but it still makes good lobster Newburger, lobster salad sandwiches and stuff like that.
Yeah, there aren't too many people in the Adirondacks who can say they've got their own home canned lobster.
No.
That's interesting. Do you have any ancestry that trace back to Newfoundland or Canada at all?
No. Well, my grandfather comes from Canada, Quebec, you know what I mean, but
Uh-huh.
up in Newfoundland, they're just friends that we got to meet in Ontario, and then they moved to Newfoundland, and we followed them up there one summer, and then we've been going back and forth. So, but we have a good time when we go up.
So Duso is a good French name, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It used to be spelled Dusscault.
Did you grow up speaking French at all?
Very little bit.
Uh-huh.
Grandmother and grandfather could. Dad could, but I never picked it up that much.
Uh-huh.
I got to put some wood in my fire.
Okay. All right. So it's time to reload the wood box here to keep the fire going. And I'm just going to put this on pause, Bernie. Okay, here we're on the tape again. Bernie, I wonder if you have any particular family stories about sugaring that you remember, either from your childhood or from your own adulthood, or...
No, not really. You know what I mean? It's just little things that happen, you know what I mean, in the sugar house that, you know, the kids like certain things, you know what I mean? When you had to draw out the syrup, everybody had to have a taste of it right then and there, you know what I mean?
And kind of weigh in on how it was.
Yeah, see what it was.
So everyone would just gather around and have
Yeah,
a taste?
yeah.
Oh, that's
Well,
neat.
After you dried it off, you know what I mean, you let it cool a little bit, and then when you tested it, you know, for gravity, you know what I mean, to be syrup and stuff, everybody have a little cup and they take a taste.
That's a nice ritual.
Yeah.
Now, was it mostly the men who hung out in the sugar shack, or did the women hang out there too?
Nah, well, I was out there most of the time, but a lot of the time my wife was out there. You just sit there and visit, you know what I mean, and keep your fire going, and watch your syrup and visit, and listen to the radio.
Yeah.
So,
And people would kind of come and go.
yeah.
It seems like on a cold spring day, it might be kind of nice hanging out
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
it
shack.
was nice in there. It was nice and warm, you know what I mean? But it's then on a nice warm spring day, it's warm in there, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you gotta do it as it goes. Yeah. And other than that, you know what I mean? It was just, you know, you gather your sap and boil it and package it and then enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So would people tell stories while you were hanging out in the shack?
Not too often, you know what I mean, because it was just mostly just family, you know what I mean, that was there. You know, guy across the river that made syrup, he always said his syrup was better than mine, and he'd bring some over and we'd test it with a sampler that we had, you know what I mean, and he'd look at it and he said, there, I bet you can't beat that, and I'd just getting ready to draw some off, and I drawed it off, and we put it in the bottle, and said, I might just well go home. Yeah, so we just
And you do that every year?
well, we have been. Yeah. When he makes it and I make it, we'll see who makes because we're right across the river from each other. We'd like to put a bridge across the river, but they won't let us.
Oh, they won't?
No, because it's too much of a danger in the spring of the year. It might stop the ice or whatever. You know.
Oh, too bad.
Yes.
Because that would be nice.
Yes. Oh,
Well, it
yes.
looks like you have some of your
Yes.
first visitors
I got
here
some
for the
customers.
evaporator. Come on in. That's all right. I'm just recording here, but
So we got a syrup demonstration.
You know, that competitive element, it has always been part of it, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, they're always, like at your county fairs, there's always, they have county fairs have a regular thing for maple syrup, you know what I mean, and you can bring your wares there and they'll judge it, you know what I mean, and pick out the champion and grand champion and all that, because they just do it by color and weight and everything. Yeah.
Have you entered? Have you put your syrup in the fairs?
I did an Essex County Fair a number of years ago, but I haven't lately.
How'd you do?
I did all right, you know what I mean. I got first place.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Yep. But like I say, it's just, you try to compete, you know what I mean, for different grades and lightness and darkness, you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
But so to me, I did it mostly for fun, you know what I mean, and getting a chance to eat the syrup on pancakes and ice cream.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you have your family's equipment?
Oh yeah, yep. The evaporator I got was the last one that my grandfather used, you know what I mean, and we moved it from Saranac Lake down here. It was stored in the barn for probably 15 or 18 years, and then we brought it down and set it up. That's what we're using.
And what about the arch?
My arch it was wood, and I switched it over to oil because, like I say, I work for the highway department, and when I had sap, I could go out there and throw a switch, and I would boil it, and when I was done, I could just shut it down.
Yeah.
It was just easier, more convenient for me.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
Yeah, Dave, right around it? Go right around on the outside, and you'll see a short hose, and just turn it on, and it'll be right there.
Right out here?
Yeah, you get it?
Now, go ahead if you need to help him with that. So the last time I was here, Bernie, you had mentioned that there are a few trees out along the edge here of the yard that you thought would be decent for
Yeah,
tapping.
I'm going to see if they can, next spring, if they have their sugar festival, we're going to see if we can tap the trees along the bank and pipe it, you know what I mean, down to barrels and then bring it over here and make it.
And that would be great, because that
Yes.
would be a whole complete process.
Be the process right here on the property. Yep.
And how old does a tree have to be before you can tap it?
They've got to be at least, they say 12 to 14 inches in diameter. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And they'll hold one tap, so, which would probably be, I would say probably 50 years
Uh-huh.
before you could tap it the first time.
Yeah. So do you move your taps to different
Oh, yeah.
spots
Yeah,
every
you
year?
got-
It's a
You
different
got
spot.
a different spot, so you don't tap the same spot every year. And trees that have a bigger crown on them, the leaves, you know what I mean, they seem to produce more sap because they got more branches. In the spring of the year, if the wind blows, you won't get no sap, you know what I mean, because it's just sap comes out of the limbs, and as it blows, wind blows through your leaves and your limbs and stuff, because naturally it's freezing it.
Okay.
So if you have wind, forget it.
Forget it. It's not a good year.
Yep. And if you get a south wind, then that'll warm it up too quick, and that's when your trees start to bud, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, the weather's got a lot to do with most of it.
Yeah, yeah. And how long can you tap a tree? Like, for example, I have some maples in my yard that are sort of at the end of their life.
Yeah. Well, as long as they got, good, healthy trees themselves, you know what I mean? No rotten spots in them, you know what I mean? So that's as long as you've got good wood, you know what I mean? Then you can still get good sap out of them.
Yeah.
And, yep. So, and a lot of the producers, you'll see they'll take with their tubing, they'll have a great big limb on the tree, and they'll even tap that. You know what I mean? Just so people say it just doesn't come out of the tree itself, it comes out of the limbs, and
Wow. Wow. I've never heard of that. Huh. So, how do you feel about the future of sugaring in this area?
Oh, I think it's going to be here. You know what I mean? It's not going to leave. Yeah, because the trees are here, people are doing it. And they're just going to keep doing it.
And some areas it's more the business, and other areas it's more a hobby.
Yeah.
Like
yep.
Shazy's a big
Yeah, they're big producers.
producers.
There's some over in Lake Placid. Paul Smith's college has a big sugar bush. St. Lawrence County, there's a lot of them. A lot of your Amish down there are in St. Lawrence County, and they're family run, and that's what they do in the spring.
Yeah.
It's their time of year to make syrup, and that's part of their life, you know what I mean? That's how they sell their syrup.
Yeah. Now, were your people in Quebec, that side of your family, were they farming people in Quebec?
Yep, they were farmers up in Quebec. I don't know that much about that part of it, you know what I mean, but they were farmers up there. My grandfather moved down from Quebec, which is just across the border from Altona or Jericho, maybe 40 miles, you know what I mean? So, yep.
So you've never been back to like the old ancestral home
No,
or anything?
no.
Uh-huh.
Nope.
You mentioned earlier that your family put syrup up in glass.
Yep.
And probably earlier, maybe before you were born, they were probably using the heavy metal cans, right?
Well, they were using cans then, you know what I mean? But you had to buy the cans, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And every year, where these here, you could just use them year to year, just like you're
Okay.
processing your vegetables in the fall, you know what
Yeah. What do you think about plastic?
I mean? Plastic is all right, but I'd rather have glass or, you know, the metal cans,
Uh-huh.
you know. But
Now, has anything else changed? I mean, people have gone from buckets to tubes. They've gone from wood to oil.
or gas. And other than that, everything else just stays the same. You know, you got to boil it the same amount. It takes the same amount of sap to make a gallon of syrup.
And the taps themselves, the
they're-
spouts
they're all
themselves
the
are the
same.
same.
Yep. The only thing, the new technology, they've got your reverse osmosis, which removes 70% of your water before it ever hits the evaporator.
Uh-huh.
So when your sap comes into your evaporator, it doesn't take long, and you've got syrup, and that's the only good advantage for your bigger producers that's got, you know, 5,000 taps or more. But
Uh-huh.
for the few taps that I got, it wouldn't be worth the while to have one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. Do you think your grandkids are going to keep doing this?
Well, I think so. My grandson, he just turned 6 this year, you know what I mean, and this is the first year that he's the one that wanted to do it. So I said, all right, we'll make a little syrup. So I think he'll keep on after it, you know what I mean. And
Uh-huh.
we get our evaporator set back up, and then, you know, he can enjoy it. Yep.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about, Bernie, that I should? Anything that's obvious, like if you were going to tell people about maple sugar in the Adirondacks or in your own family?
No, I don't think so. I think I've explained as much as I know, you know what I mean, family stuff. But,
Do you have those recipes, those family recipes written down anywhere?
I think my wife has got some of them in the cookbook, you know what I mean. It's, you know what I mean. But when they have the sugar festival here in the spring, they have a bake-off, you know what I mean. They have everybody bring in different recipes, and I think they had a book last year with all the recipes in it.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. They have
Yeah.
it at the sugar house or at the museum.
Uh-huh.
But other than that, that's about all there is. Nothing has changed, you know what I mean?
Can you make syrup from any other kind of tree?
They do make a birch syrup, you know what I mean? I've never tasted any, but they said it takes like 100 gallons of sap or better to make a gallon of syrup.
Oh, so the sugar content is
Yeah,
much lower in other
much
trees.
lower, yeah.
So that's the thing about sugar maples, is that they have
Yeah.
compared to other trees, they have a higher sugar content.
Yep, yep.
Huh. Interesting.
Yes, yes.
And of course, they're beautiful and distinctive.
Yep.
Come on in.
Come on in.
We're finishing up here. Well, thank you, Bernie. I
Alrighty.
appreciate it.
Good enough. So maybe we'll see you over at the museum later when you're ready. And
Okay, great.
yeah.